All right, we'll call to order the June 13, 2022 Johnson County Council meeting. Roll call.
Jim Ison,
Here.
Melinda Greenberg,
Here.
Pete Ketchum,
Here.
Jonathan Myers,
Here.
John Myers,
Here.
Ron Deere,
Here.
and Rob Henderson's absent.
Pete, would you mind leading us in the
Sure.
invocation?
If we could all take a moment to pray. Dear God, our Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this this opportunity we have to meet as a council with our elected officials and county citizens, county employees, department heads. We pray for thy guidance and thy presence during this meeting to assist us as we make decisions that affect everybody within the county. Pray that that will be with our military and our first responders. And we pray for these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Would please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have the approval of tonight's agenda. There are a few changes to it. Under routine matters, item B, we're removing items 3 and 4. And we'll add a new item 3, which will be the approval of the regular meeting minutes from 4/11 of 22. Motion to approve tonight's agenda. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by John T. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Public comments. Is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to address the council? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Item B, routine matters, consent agenda. These are routine matters that we take in a single motion. Does anyone have any concerns about tonight's consent agenda? And I would entertain a motion to approve it.
No, Betsy.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Betsy Swearingen, Director, Health Department. On our item number 11, the Crisis Coag Grant, if I can't do this, you just have to tell me that we can't, but we wanted to add a line item for advertising and move some money out of the operating supplies into that line item. Do we have to do that on another meeting? Or could we do it tonight?
Okay.
Oh, okay, great. So I would just like to ask for an addition of advertising line item with $3,000 in that. That's taking that 15,000 out of operating supplies down to 12,000.
Okay. With the changes just discussed on item 11, reducing item A to 12,000 and adding a item G for advertising of 3,000. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by John Ed, a second by Melinda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Salary ordinance amendments, additional appropriations, reductions and transfers. First up is the Health Department.
Sorry, should have just stood here. Betsy Swearingen, Director, Health Department. In this one, we are just asking to appropriate for the upcoming preparedness grant starting July 1st for a salary for the preparedness coordinator.
I'll move to approve as presented. Second.
Motion by John Ed, a second by Pete. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up is American Rescue Plan.
Yes, Kevin Walls, Johnson County Commissioner. Questions? I'm just looking for your approvals. Uh-oh, he's got questions.
No. No, I'm just having trouble adjusting, getting old.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
A motion by John Ed, a second by John T. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Did you get all of them? How many you got on there?
We had A, B, and C.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that's what we
There we
voted on. Yep, we're good. Community corrections.
Lori Myers, Juvenile Community Corrections Director for the
Hi,
Juvenile
Lori.
Division. And we have several items for you on there. If I can, I'm going to just try to kind of summarize that and make it as straightforward as we possibly can. To start, I want to state that the 2022 project income budget that you folks approved for this year, this plan in front of you actually reduces that by about $3,300. The plan in front of you also shows no change at all to the general fund. The movement here is a result of our Department of Corrections grant that is a fiscal year. The way we're required to submit that and divide that out by our employees and the programs that they work makes this all look a lot more complicated than it probably needs to be. But really, the highlights here are we did receive $25,000 extra from our Department of Corrections grant, which is allowing us to do some different things. We were also had a change. One of my assistant directors, I've had two, has gotten married and moved off to Kentucky on me, and I'm not that happy with her about that. But because of that, we were also able to gain some money for this plan to go in a little bit different direction. Right now, we feel like our needs are to take some of the responsibilities that Julie had as an assistant director and put them on Damon's plate, which he was my second assistant. He's assuming some additional responsibilities and he will continue to be a field officer. However, we're looking in this plan to hire an additional field officer. So that's, you see some title changes. You see that we're asking for a field officer. Really, that's the significant adjustment that's happening, just to realign things. Again, I'm proud to be able to say that we're reducing our project income and not raising anything in any kind of in the general fund in any way, just by recouping and realigning positions. But to do that, many line items had to get readjusted to align with our grant that starts July 1st. Do you have any specific questions for me?
Are you eliminating the assistant director?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, so that went into another, like a case manager and then this field officer position. I will also say that for about the last 7 years, I've had a full-time case manager in that project income 4950 account. Finally, and I think if you will remember at budget time for this year, I stood before you and said, it's been such a long time, I'm just going to give that back. It doesn't need to keep showing up because this person's actually paid out of a grant. So in reality, I'm really just asking you to reassign that back to us. It's something that we've had up until the last 6 months. And now we're going to need that full-time position again. We're paying that out of our grant and project income and the FICA and PERF. We're covering.
Is this for items 3 and 4 then?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Actually 5 and 6 are just the new grants and those appropriations for the grants that we just received that start July for the fiscal cycle. So this conversation is really a combination of 3 and 4.
Let's take them separately.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion on 3?
So this is going to go to their pay as a permanent raise.
I'm sorry.
These increases, like juvenile case manager.
The only one that's going, there are really no increases. It's just instead of it coming more out of like project income, it's more coming out of DOC or whatever, the way we had to pull those together. When you add them all up, all the different accounts they get paid from, no one's getting an increase. There is one exception to that. And that is the case manager 2. And we did give a slight increase on that. And based on that individual has completed her master's, her licensing exam, and also is working on her clinical social work right now, and has assumed a therapeutic role in our system as opposed to just being a program instructor. Actually, what we did increase it is, I think, significantly below what that midpoint for other similar positions would have been. I think that was normally at about 65, and we're just asking for 50 because that's all we can really afford right now, without asking you for additional anything.
I understand all that. The only thing that was confusing on the agenda, it says annual salary of 4,206.
Mhm.
And then the next one's annual salary. The statement on the agenda
Yeah,
doesn't align.
I understand that. And the way, again, that we had to move things out of one account to the other, it looks like it's an increase, but when you add the project income, DOC grant, general fund, anything, those supplementals, they are not making more money. I too wish that it was a little bit more straightforward and it just looked clean and easy. It's just not the way they force us to divide up those line items in the grant.
so once again, the net result of items 3 and 4 are, it reduces $3,300 and then there's no change to the general.
That is correct.
Okay,
I'll move to approve as presented.
second.
A motion by John Ed, a second by John T. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 4.
All right. I guess that's still me. 4. Oh, project income. That's the name change. Is that right? Yeah, we're just changing, again, with my assistant director leaving, we're just changing that line item to have a name change to case manager 4.
I'll move to approve as presented.
I'll second.
A motion by John Ed, a second by Melinda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, item 5 is our juvenile community corrections, Department of Corrections grant. And those are the amounts that were approved by the DOC for us to operate for the next fiscal year.
Is the part-time rate set by DOC?
That is the rate that we actually were approved in for 2022 by this council.
And I mean, that's what I meant. We approve it.
You
but-
approved it
But as
already.
a guidance come from them that
Yes.
it needs to be a certain amount.
It doesn't, it's not required to be a certain amount.
Are the numbers next to the job title with the asterisks, are those increases from 2021 or 2022?
What are the- in the parentheses? Oh, the biweekly amounts.
Okay.
apparently. The smarter people in the room than me say they're biweekly amounts.
It's written at the top of the paper.
Man, she called you
If I
out.
had read that or could see it.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion?
I'll take 6 with it.
Just do them separate.
I've got a question. Your juvenile case managers, the one that has 2, I'm sorry, the one that has 4 in parentheses,
Uh-huh.
and the juvenile field officer
Mhm.
underneath that, are those 35 to 40 hour a week jobs?
Yeah, they're full-time positions.
Right.
Yeah, and
Are they
37.5,
37.5?
37.5,
okay.
yeah, 7.5 hour
And,
days.
and that's their salary that's listed on their yearly salary?
Yes,
Okay.
well, from that fund.
Oh, I
There are
see.
supplemental amounts that come from either our project income or the general fund.
I see. So
Yeah.
roughly, here, they're both getting about the same amount of money. Roughly, how much do those positions get total from all the funds?
To be exact, all of my people, the field officer, all those case managers make
I see.
41,725.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
A motion by John Ed, a second by Melinda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item 6.
Okay, and item 6 is a grant that we've received from the Indiana Department of Child Services as a prevention provider. And that is also a fiscal calendar grant that we receive, and we've received it for more than 10 years.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by John Ed, a second by Ron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And item 7. Community,
I'll let this other crew take over from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
this adult project income.
Hi, Angela Morris, Director of Court Services. We are requesting a reduction in, A is a reduction in that line item. The salary reduction, and then B is a title change and C is a new number. So I think B and C are switching numbers.
So you said the reduction in A, why would you reduce that?
I believe it was a senior field officer line item.
Oh, okay,
And so we're still in the process of cleaning up title changes
sure.
and getting all that in line with the salaries, the titles, and making them correct to what the position is.
I'll make a motion. to approve.
Second,
A motion by Melinda, a second by Pete. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
The coroner.
Evening, members of the council, Mike Pruitt, Johnson County Coroner, and I'm here tonight to seek your approval to be able to pay my chief deputy per call. And that would be the $125 per call that our current deputies get. He gets a base salary right now of $9,223. And as one of the most underfunded positions in the county. So I need to do something to help him out a little bit because between he and I, we do a lot of work. It takes both those to run the office on a daily basis. And I just want to do something to pay him a little bit better. And this is one way for me to do that. When he takes calls, when he signs up for shifts, being able to receive compensation for that. Because right now, he doesn't. Well, no matter how much admin work he does or how many calls he takes, he just gets that $9,223. So this way, I'm just trying to help him out a little bit, compensate him a little bit better. So he's getting paid the $9,223 for his admin work, and then he gets paid per call. So do you have any questions?
How much admin work does he do?
A lot. So between the two of us, we share a lot of responsibilities. Obviously, we both have full-time jobs. So everything from signing death certificates to dealing with families to scheduling pickups with decedents at the funeral homes, managing the day-to-day operations of making sure the deputy coroners are taken care of and everything they need to do, ordering supplies. So we share a lot of those responsibilities. So when you look at my pay versus his, there's a big difference there. What I get as the elected and what he gets as the chief deputy. So
What do you get as elected?
I get $31,000 as the elected. So, when you look at comparisons around the state, it's really hard to do that sometimes to find counties like ours. I always look at Hendricks County. So the chief deputy in Hendricks County's salary is $15,000. So makes a little bit more out there in a similar county that we could compare ourselves to. But he works his tail off, or anybody that's in that position, the chief deputy works their tail off. And we attend meetings on a regular basis. We do a lot of things in that coroner's office now that maybe hadn't been done before that needed to be done. And so that's why, I'm seeking the ability to compensate him. So when he does sign up to cover shifts, that he gets compensated for those calls.
And it doesn't add to your budget.
It does not add to my budget. Now we're up 30 runs over 30 calls for service over last year. So that budget's doing okay. We're about 50% right now. And obviously we don't know where we're going to be when October, November comes. We're trying to forecast that a little bit, but that's always hard. All it takes is a couple homicides, which involves more of our people paying more money out of that line item, and it can shrink that. But right now we're doing pretty good. So there's really no request for additional funds at this point to be able to pay him that.
How many runs does he average a month?
Well,
I get it, but
that
how many,
varies.
how many runs has he averaged?
Well,
this year?
for a while, when he first became chief deputy, and even before that, he and I would respond to try to back our corners up. We would go out on calls with them to assist them. So it varied. I mean, he would do sometimes 15 calls a month, sometimes 10. But then in the recent month, as we looked at this, he cut back on the number of runs just because we were staying so busy handling other parts of the coroner's office and dealing with other factors that involved the death investigations that he and I were having to handle, and he just didn't have the time to be working and taking call and getting very little compensation for that. So now we're trying to balance it out a little bit better, get him better compensation so that he's getting paid for the calls he takes, which are separate from the admin duties that he does do.
How many hours a week does he spend in the office doing admin stuff?
So I was just doing this, just kind of figuring. So if we looked at 40 hours that he does a week, whether that's day or night, because he works full-time job, does a lot of coroner work in the evenings from home, from wherever he's at. Matter of fact, he's in Florida right now. He's been doing work from down there. He's getting $5 an hour is basically what he's getting paid. I have deputy coroners that are making more than he is on a monthly basis. And so,
So would you, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
you were-
I asked my question. I got another. Go ahead.
Would you be opposed to increasing his salary over the calls?
that is, so I was looking for a fix right now. And then when the budget process begins, that's the next step that I wanted to do, was go back and revisit his salary to maybe increase the salary to help offset that.
I personally, I'm only one up here, but I would just assume maybe discuss that now instead of doing a piecemeal and then coming back in a few months. And
Yeah,
If he gets paid $125 and he has 10 runs per month, that's $15,000 a year. Roughly.
So I'm leaving that one on you guys' plate
That
to
would
kind of
be an
determine
addition
what you want to
To
do.
the 9,300 or 9,200.
You have to ask him.
You said
Uh,
if he did 10 a month,
If he did 10 runs at $125 each, at 12 months would come to 15,000.
then you add the 9,200 into that as his
Right.
chief deputies.
Right. That's in addition to the 9,300.
right. So. I
And that would be
guess,
24,200.
But it's a variable income. It's not an assured.
Does he do 40 hours a week? Because
He
you
does
said
it.
40 hours.
I always look at the 40 hours because you're just, the phone calls are constant. We're always dealing with things with the coroner's office. So because he works part-time as in probation, we have to divide that time a little bit, the number of hours he puts in. So we try to watch the number of hours, but I can tell you that the demand for his time, from phone calls to working with the deputies on situations they may have on their calls, it can add up more than 20, but we try not to make sure that we try to not go over that 20 hours a week. But we split with probation with him being part-time with them also.
So Mr. Pruitt, I'm in favor of this. And it's for this calendar year. If we make it for this calendar year and then we take care of it in the form of a salary at the time of budget, would that be acceptable then?
So you're saying
Do it for this calendar year.
for
And
the
then at
upcoming budgets?
And then when it comes time for budget to set for 23, we would make this.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair if we come up with a fair salary for him.
I also want to thank you for your reports. They're very helpful.
You're welcome.
So you ready for a motion?
where are you with this?
And I want to compensate him, but I mean, he's getting us a small salary. I'd be more open to like maybe $70 per run, since he's already being compensated somewhat.
Here's the thing, that $9,223, he earns every penny of that
I'm
on
not
a
saying he
daily
doesn't.
basis. And then the calls and the death investigations become a whole separate situation. So I don't think he is worth any less than what the deputy coroners get paid $125, I guess is what I'm trying to say, when he is doing that work.
John, I'm not to differ with you at all. But what I've noticed from the data that we get from them is that things are increasing. And they're getting busier all the time.
Well, I don't have any problem with this paying for at the same level that others are. And then considering in the fall, I mean, when we do budget time, for a reasonable increase in the salary that reflects it. But I think what we all have to adjust to is that we ain't doing it the way we used to do it.
That's correct.
You know, we're modernizing it, we're bringing it into the 21st century. And, you know, you pay for what you get. And he wouldn't have to take those calls, I suppose, if you continue just doing administrative duty, but you expect him to take those calls. And if you expect him to take the calls, then we should compensate him accordingly in some fashions. So I'm supportive of it.
Everybody in our office takes calls. I take calls, he takes calls. So we all have to do that. We all have to do that to stay proficient at our work.
Right.
And so,
I think I would still prefer just to address the salary now.
I agree with you.
I mean, I'm not opposed to paying him. I don't necessarily like the salary on top of calls. That's Not saying he's not worth it, but if he so chooses, let's just say he's gonna take every call this month, then I mean, we could get it into some extremely large numbers, and then
Well,
he's
that's,
over an
that's part of
hour.
my responsibility is
I
I
know.
balance our
I
schedule
get- I get
and I do
that,
the
but-
schedule, so.
I think for me, this is just a way that everybody, I mean, you win, he wins, you're getting what you want.
I'm not opposed to the set salary either. I mean, that's, you know, I was saying Hendricks County, the chief deputy in Hendricks County gets 15,725 is what he is paid.
That money can come out of the deputy line item.
To increase the salary. If I did, I'm gonna have to come back and ask for additional appropriation because I don't think we'll be able to get through the end of the year with what's in that line item.
What's the corner salary in Hendricks County?
I think we're up around 50
Yeah,
on that
so
one. It's,
I think-
they have a full-time coroner out there, so a little bit different.
This is one of those things, it's hard, how do you,
For 6 months, given the number that Mike just gave, it would be $2,620 raise on top for 6 months.
That's if you did flat 10.
yeah, I don't, that's the problem that I have with that formula though. I don't know that 15 is the right number, but
Well, if we're gonna hope, ask him to do that, then I think we need to give him the opportunity to provide a case for that. He didn't make a case for that tonight. He made a case for 125, and that's the suggestion of the council.
And I came in here not expecting you
Yeah,
guys
no,
to
that's my
offer a
point.
counter with the salary.
That's my point.
So, I came in here to talk about it. If we want to talk about the salary, then I'm perfectly okay with that because in the end run, that's what I'm shooting for next year. I just wanted to help him get through this year.
But you don't have the documentation and you're not making a case for that. We all of a sudden have said, oh, let's consider that.
Yes.
And it could be 20, it could be 12, it could be 22. I mean, we don't know with what data you have right now. So
I think we do, we're,
How many shifts does he cover a month?
It varies. I mean, right now, he's just been filling in holes where we don't have a deputy coroner sign up. So that's where he and I go in and fill those holes. So it varies because right now, we have a group of deputy coroners who've been very steady in the hours they cover, but there's still gaps. And so that's where we've been stepping in and filling those when we do those.
I
So
don't think
that's-
we should grab a number out of the air. We have a salary survey. We could look at those counties that are included in that and then take an average. Or some type of, whatever scale we use for everybody, that, somewhere in the middle or slightly above middle. But I don't think we're prepared to do that right now.
okay, is there a motion on the table floor? Is there a motion on, I didn't hear, is there a motion? on-
No.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the 125 per call as requested until such time as we're able to consider
For the rest
data
of the year.
for the, well, yeah, I suggest it be for the rest of the year, and I said till we have time to hit budget time. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
we have a motion by Ron, a second by John T. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye.
I,
So it passes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Pruitt, like I said, I'm in total agreement with you. It's not what you're asking for, it's just the means. I'd want to see his salary go up, but I guess we'll deal with that later.
We'll work on that down the road, but I appreciate.
And we should have some new numbers coming in that we can compare some externals and try to come up with. I think you're probably going to be somewhere in that 13 to 15,000 range, but we'll see what we get.
All right, thank you.
And he does do a good job. Okay, moving on. Other business, approval of CF1 real property for Martin and Jackson Umberger for the benefit of an entity to be formed.
Sheena down there in the.
I guess I'm trying to understand what this is meaning.
Further,
It's what you approved. There was a similar thing on the agenda last month for Ellipsis. It's a check-in for the tax abatement. It's a state required form. So Mr. Sherman is online. He's a representative of Umbarger if you have any specific questions.
There should be two CF1s for the personal, ones for real property.
Yes.
Just a routine, right, Sheena?
Yes. Yep, it's an annual requirement.
I move for approval of Form CF1 for Martin and Jackson Umbarger for benefit of an entity to be formed.
Yeah, he was approved for it like a couple of years ago.
a motion by Ron, a second by John T. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I had a question. Did you, our attorney, look at this and everything checks out in your opinion?
Yeah, it appears to be compliant to me.
Pardon me?
It appears to be compliant, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like the motion passed.
Sorry.
No, no worries.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that was just for the first one.
Correct.
All right. Item 2, approval CF1 for Martin and Umbarger for the benefit of an entity to be formed.
Personal property.
For personal property, sorry. Again, it looks like they're in compliance.
Yes. I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by John Ed, a second by Ron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Item 3 is the second reading of ordinance 2022-04, an ordinance extending the imposition of Johnson County's annual license excise surtax and wheel tax. So there was a discussion last month. I think we tabled a vote at the time. The discussion was regarding whether or not to raise this tax as a means, a funding source for some of the infrastructure projects that we had. I believe at the time it was the opinion of the majority of the council that that was not that we did not have the appetite to do that. So keeping this on the agenda tonight, I'll open it up for discussion, but I think my intention is to proceed by approving it as it is, just for the extension.
Same here.
Same
I
here.
agree.
So you don't want the information that he isn't prepared to give us.
So there were some follow-up questions and some information that the council, excuse me, Luke Maston, Highway Supervisor, that the council requested at the last meeting. I'm still gathering some of that data. Some of it's proving a little bit difficult to get my hands on. So that is information that I can still provide regardless of how you choose to move forward this evening. But I can't, I'm not prepared to provide it tonight.
All right, he made a suggestion. He wasn't prepared to provide it tonight, and then we're suggesting that we act on it. And I don't like asking somebody to do something that we want, and then we don't accept it. We can delay this to get the information and make an informed decision.
Can we bring this up later? if we prove this, can we bring it up earlier instead of the sunset?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so,
anytime. And at first reading, as submitted, the rates were intended to stay the same. That was just based on past experiences at every 5 years when we brought the ordinance back for reapproval. The only real change is just adjusting the vehicle classifications to match what's in the statute. Seems like we have to do that about every 5 years because they always change. So what we originally brought at the last meeting wasn't intended to raise the rates. It was intended to try to keep them the same as what they are now.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with that. I think we talked about this the last time. None of us had an appetite for raising it. I think to go ahead with it, and given some history on this, that the state was going to do something initially to replace it, and that's not anywhere in the near future. So I think to keep it the same, at least until some point in time in the far future when it's going to be replaced.
And as Councilman Myers mentioned, it can come back for discussion at any time. So if there is a desire to adjust those rates in the future, we don't have to wait until the sunset. If we choose to put one back in, it can come up for discussion at any council.
When does it sunset?
This is the last year. Typically, it's been given a 60-month timeframe. So every 5 years, we bring it back for readoption. The original intention of that sunset, when it first went into effect, was the hope that Councilman Myers just mentioned. At some point, there would be some sort of statutory change that might give us a different option for local funding beyond what the wheel tax and excise surtax offer. But to date, that has not come to fruition. That's the primary tool that the state statute gives us for additional road maintenance money. It's not an ideal user fee by any means, but it's the only tool that we have available. But the reason the sunset was there was to ensure that every 5 years, at a minimum, we check and see if there is some additional or different funding option available.
Luke, would you care to share the answers to some of the questions that you were able to find out about, or do you prefer to just wait and have all the questions?
So this week, I'm expecting to get all of the registration data for all of the vehicle registrations in the county. Because one of the questions was essentially how many registrations do we have of each classification and how much revenue is that gaining? So in that aspect, I don't have that data at the moment.
Right.
The most difficult data to try to figure out was the question regarding age, the age of the registrant, because that information is not tracked with the vehicle registration. That's separate. So I've had some discussions with our data folks, but I don't know that we have a really good way to come up with a number with the data that we have available. It's just not something that's tracked. So even with what other information I might be able to provide, once I have that data, I don't think that's something that I can provide a reasonable guess for above and beyond whatever national data that might be.
Okay, thanks.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by John Ed, a second by John T. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 4, approval of ordinance 22-05, an ordinance regarding an additional appropriation by Amity Fire Protection District.
bring this down just a little bit. Good evening. My name's Sally Wells and I'm here for the Amity Fire Protection Board. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to bring this request to you. We appreciate all that the council does for the Amity Fire Protection District. The volunteer fire department recently received a grant to purchase a new ambulance, which was generally needed for our district. The additional appropriation will allow us to purchase additional medical equipment needed to bring the ambulance up to good service for the patients. The funding will go out, will come out of our cash reserves that we have. And the board, which consists currently of Doug Weddle and myself, have had several meetings with the chief of the fire department, and we totally agree with the appropriation of these funds for these 3 pieces of equipment that we need. We feel that the equipment, again, is needed to help with the patients that they serve, and as you received in your packet, extensive information about each piece of equipment that we want to purchase.
Will this be the first ambulance that Amity has owned and ran?
I don't believe it's their first ambulance. I can ask the chief. I apologize, I'm new to this board.
They have one now.
But they have one now. This one was a grant that they received to get a new one to bring it up to speed. Or to
So
get
is
us
this replacing the old one or is it an additional?
an additional.
And this is a revenue. This generates revenue for the fire.
The fire protection.
Okay.
And I talked to Janet, their consultant. She couldn't make it tonight and it is within their budget.
Yes, yes, sir, it is.
So this isn't gonna be a yearly thing. This is just a one-time
It's a,
deal.
correct. It's a one-time purchase of these equipment.
Chief, on your current ambulance, what year is that?
Current ambulance is a 2007
How many-
Chevrolet Duramax.
How many miles are on that?
It's approaching 100,000 miles.
Okay.
And I've been in that ambulance as a patient. No,
I wouldn't be bragging about that.
I'm not bragging about it. Just letting you know, we do need this new one.
You're gonna keep this as a spare?
We're going to use it as a backup. Yeah.
Very good.
Right now, it has some mechanical issues that we need to get it in the shop. Excuse me, but right now, to give you an idea, last year in 12 months, we did 54 transports. As of this morning, we've done 72 so far this year.
And that includes mutual aid.
That includes mutual aid.
Do you have a vision to ever making this ALS? Is this going to just be strictly BLS?
It's a BLS truck, yes. We are working on a program right now with some other chiefs in the county. Hasn't come to head yet, but about doing like a paramedic chase or something along that line.
Okay.
So you're asking for $72,250
Correct,
for the second ambulance
correct.
as a one-time allotment in addition. to-
But it's within the budget.
It's within, yes, it's within
It's
our
within your
budget.
budget.
Mhm.
Okay.
But the ambulance came on a grant.
Yes.
I'll move to.
Well, just 1 second. Before we go any further, this was listed as a public hearing. So is there anyone in the audience or online that would like to comment concerning this? And we'll close the public hearing.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
A motion by John Ed, a second by Ron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 5, approval of interlocal agreement with the city of Franklin, agreement to authorize pavement and reconstruction of 500 East Jim Black Road.
Maston Highway Supervisor again. City of Franklin is currently doing a reconstruction project for their portion of 500 East Jim Black Road between 44 and County Road 100 North. The very north end of that road, about 850 feet, is still the county's. It has not been annexed yet, but the city had interest in extending their reconstruction project for that industrial area in that 850-foot area that the county currently owns. City recognizes that that will be annexed at some point and developed, and it makes sense to go ahead and build those improvements now. They will pay the reconstruction costs so the costs of that project. In addition to that, they have offered in the agreement to handle maintenance of that area as long as it stays on our inventory. And the only change to that would be when there's an annexation down the road. So pretty straightforward interlocal agreement that the city has requested.
Commissioners,
Commissioners approved it today unanimously.
further discussion?
Franklin's already approved it. The agreement.
I don't know if
I'm
it's,
not sure. It was Lynn Gray drafted it, so she brought it to us, but I'm not sure when their meeting is. So.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Motion by John, a second by Pete. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes.
thank you.
Old and new business. Appointment of a council member to the Johnson County 911 Advisory Board, retro to May 13th, 2022. Ron is our current council representative, and he has expressed interest to continue in that role. Is there anyone else who has interest?
I'm just out of curiosity, how often do you meet for your meetings?
Once every, no, 90 days,
Quarter.
Once a quarter?
quarter. Yeah.
Entertain a
I'll name
nomination.
Ron Deere.
I'll second.
Come on, boys.
Nomination for Ron by John Ed and a second by, who was it?
You gotta think.
I said
Melinda.
something, but really, I mean, I don't, it's fine.
All those in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations.
I had to think about that long.
Trying to move this meeting along.
Yeah.
Item two.
I'm keeping my mouth shut. They're still not moving.
Well, it's like we,
2023 budget guidelines.
Mr. Chairman, do you have those?
No, I don't.
Well, if you like, I can summarize what I asked and everybody should have received some time ago. The last 2019, 2020, or 2020, 21, 22. So we could recall what was happening, and a lot happened. The salary study determined that at one point in time, this council then last year approved 4% with the 750 stipend. And then we requested and it's in the process of a salary study that Sheena then reported to us in a memo from, what's her name, Sheena?
Addie Rooker at Wagner Irwin Jr.
Yes. And she indicated a couple of things. Number one, she was still working on it, but she also indicated that the average she's seeing on all positions is 6 to 8% below external. And then Sheena, she says something about 5.6 cost of living that she was seeing, but what was she?
She said they've been providing clients with an inflation option, which projects an additional 5.6% cost of living increase through the end of 2022. I don't have any more information on.
And you don't know what that
means.
inflation option meant?
I'm assuming she means when she presents the salary study that's updated. She said there's 6 ahead of us, so that she's got a lot of them on the table, and she's presenting some additional option.
Yeah, I didn't quite get what that is. And I did some research today, just out of curiosity. It's always something that we have to consider looking at it, and everything that I read from every pundit on talking about Social Security increases for 2023 were 8.6, and the cost of living was averaging 7 throughout. Whether it's you look at USA Today or whoever you want to look at and suggest that that's an alternative. So somewhere between 5.6 and 8.6 is all the information that I have acquired. And we're giving guidelines that we don't have a salary study completed update. So
We're waiting on a couple of items. We're waiting on some final numbers with special lit distribution and
Mike,
yeah, the
Mike Reuter.
overall assessed values still haven't come in, have they? Okay, so, I mean, we're waiting, we still have a lot of information. I mean, right now, all we can do is give a guidance, which we do every year, and they're rarely stuck to, but I think that we give the guidance of the area that we think we're going to be at, and then once we have all of the numbers from Mike in and all of the budgets in, we really can't tell how much is going to be left over and how far out of balance we are until that time, and then we can adjust the salary increases accordingly. But
no, we did receive a memo, and correct me if I'm wrong, we all received a memo, at least in the last couple of days, from the state that said the excess, and that's not the appeal, but the excess levy would be 5%. Did you see that?
Yes.
Did you see, everybody see that? So at least we know that. That's one of the things that Mike was working on. He didn't know.
right, but I mean, there's no way for us to pinpoint, right? This is just a starting point, and then we adjust to it. And quite honestly, this point, when we do this every year, it really just creates chaos and contention, because like I said, it's rarely stuck to, and it often changes from our standpoint once we see what final numbers are going to look like. So, I mean, I'm prepared to continue down the same track because that's what we've grown accustomed to, but there's absolutely no way to know what the raise is going to be on June 13th, 2022.
Well, but there's multiple parts to the budget guidelines, as you know, that we tell them, you know, we make suggestions, and I disagree that I remember the majority of department heads coming in with, we followed the guidelines. There were a few that didn't, and they had to justify, and we requested that they provide documentation as to why they should receive more than what the budget is on both salary and equipment, supplies, service. And we basically, you know, looked to a flat budget for all of the regular items with justification if there needed to be an increase. And then we gave the guidance. And then, as I said, I didn't keep count of how many did, but it was far, in my opinion, the majority of them did come in following the 4%. And those who didn't, personally, I had a problem with it when they didn't, but they had to justify it. And if they justified it, then we took action as a council approving how they justified it. So I disagree that they don't follow it. I think the majority of them look to us for leadership, and we should provide that leadership with the understanding that it could be modified close to budget time. Unfortunately, when we get the salary information from Irwin, it's going to be a really rush, a rush to make a decision, getting it in August when we're going into hearings the 1st of September. But we ought to at least say something, 4 or 5 or 6 or nothing or something, and give them some guidance and be leaders.
What do you recommend?
Lead away.
I think it should be at least 5%.
You could say 10 and I would go with it right now. It's going to change. It's going to change based on the bottom line.
Well, I think it should be the same with
So
Social
what was
Security.
it that
8.6.
happened in the commissioner meeting about that whole stipend that they were talking about?
For the ARPA,
Yes.
well, it came out of the ARPA meeting that they were approving a stipend, but the commissioners have not acted.
They've
on
not
it.
acted.
Okay.
So
And
nothing's been.
the amount was 2,500.
Well, that's,
Well, that suggested amount.
I don't know.
That's what was discussed.
Yeah, I don't even know that there
I
was a
wouldn't count
number.
on it At this point,
And
I mean, I don't know what the amount will be.
Well,
I know
no,
There's a
but
not to exceed number that came out of that committee
But that's that
for
nature.
total.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that,
A stipend's only a one-time thing. It's not
Right.
part of their permanent salary.
Right, but last year we just added it part into their salary for the COVID stipend.
Yeah, that 750 or 700, whatever it was.
Right.
for the sake of moving this forward, what we need to do is establish a percentage for them to start at. Anything outside of any increases that they need to the additional line items need justification, just as in every year.
I agree.
We take it one at a time.
I
So
agree.
what's the magic number to start at?
Or,
Or it can always go up,
yeah.
make it come down. Well, no, it can't go up, can it?
Yeah,
If you do the advertisement.
Excel's a great thing, you can just plug in a number when we know it. There's no reason for putting a number down at this point in time, because we simply don't know.
Because we're gonna be mulling this over. This is exciting.
Well, one thing that does help with that is when she prepares these budgets,
Mhm.
we can kind of quickly get an idea of what that's gonna look like dollar wise to the final picture.
I say 4 is a good number.
I don't
Excuse me.
disagree with you, John, but
John asked Amy a question and I didn't hear her answer.
She advertises high, always advertises higher than what?
How much higher? Enough to bump it up 1 or 2%?
I was trying to look at the calendar. And Adam says they'll have it by August 1st.
Say August 1st. Okay, keep going.
You guys meet on August 8th. Have everyone turn it in by August 10th. That's going to push me, but it'll be more real numbers.
If Irwin gives us that, and there's no guarantee that she's gonna give it to us,
So as long as you get it that first week on the 8th of August at your meeting.
she's not said that.
What?
She said, we're on a line and she'll get to it. Their company will get to it
Was it?
in due course.
Really did when he did his,
She didn't, that's her interpretation, that she did not commit to a time. She said they would try, but we're in line.
My interpretation is as follows. We have been collecting external salary data and are on target to have the project completed by the end of August.
End of August,
So
which
I
is too
interpret
late.
that as they will be on target for the end of August.
End of August, which is too late.
Just, can we get, what are the dates again for the budget hearings?
First week of September after Labor Day.
Okay,
But that's not the dates that she's talking about.
no, I know.
So that
He says 5.6.
in all practical intents and purposes, the report is going to do us no good for this year. You got to get that for all practical intents and purposes. The report coming in at the end of August is going to do us no good for this year.
Amy, do you recall what Mike plugged in the fiscal report? That's why I couldn't remember if it was 2 or 3.
Three.
That's why I was asking.
It was 3.
Was it 3?
Yeah. But he didn't have the figures for our excess levy appeal, and then the 5% that came out today, and I remember, came out in that memo to us.
What do you think of Pete? I heard 4 and 5.
Well, if Mike topped out at 3, I'd like to go with 3 and just ask Amy to, raise that buffer that she usually throws in there. I'd hate to say 5 and have the word get out and all the employees are expecting 5%. and
Right.
Not be able to deliver.
Right.
I mean, if he did,
But when you advertise high, you're not advertising just salaries high. You're advertising everything higher, correct?
I do it for fun.
Right.
So I'll just put in the line item with the rest of the budget. the next time. So it covers that whole fund.
Right. But you don't put in an increase of 6 or 7%, only for salaries, it's for funds.
Yes, I can do it. I know what you guys want.
So if we say 3, then you will put in, when you say you'll advertise 3, or 3, you'll put in what?
3 will be in the budget, and then I can do like additional. So like 3 would be in their individual department budgets. In that fund, and then I'll advertise additional 3 or 5%.
Yeah, and but we're just not getting the information in time to make that decision, gentlemen and ladies. I mean, what do we?
She has.
So we're not going to get the information till the end of August. Why are we delaying the discussion?
we're not. We're trying to figure it out here.
Okay, so we've heard 3, 4, and 5.
We're just waiting on a motion.
I'll make a motion that, that we, let's see where it goes. Go ahead.
I'll second her.
Here you go.
Got a motion by Melinda to set the salary increase guideline to 4%, a second by John Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Any other changes above the 2022 budget will need to be the department head will have to justify it. Okay.
Maybe you'll put some fluff in there if we decide to go higher.
Amy, can you confirm our September budget dates? I'm sorry to ask, but I know Sheena gave a rough
6, 8, and 15.
6th, 8th, and 15th. Thank you so much.
October meeting is the 17th.
What'd you say? I heard left.
The October meeting is the 17th.
The 17th.
Yes.
That all. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.